An exclusive. We obtained an internal document that reveals the Chinese Communist regime is ramping up propaganda efforts inside Hubei province, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak. And inside China, cases of the virus in the Chinese army are also increasing. Photos show soldiers wearing face masks and getting their body temperature measured. Japan now has nearly 700 cases of the coronavirus, 621 of which are from the Diamond Princess cruise ship. The US State Department has labeled 5 Chinese media outlets as foreign missions to make it clear that these media outlets primarily trade in propaganda.
Welcome to China in Focus. I'm your host, Tiffany Meyer. Cases of the coronavirus continue to increase around the world. Hong Kong reported its second death from the coronavirus yesterday, a 70-year-old man, and Hong Kong has 63 reported cases of the coronavirus. Iran reported 2 deaths today due to the coronavirus. Iran is the 29th country outside of China reporting cases. South Korea says the coronavirus cases jumped by 2/3 in one day. South Korea CDC said in a statement that 20 new coronavirus cases had been confirmed, raising its total from 31 to 51. And Japan now has 693 cases of the coronavirus, 621 of which are from the Diamond Princess cruise ship. Yesterday, that number was at 542. That's the most cases of the coronavirus outside of China. Today, passengers aboard the cruise ship ended their 14-day quarantine. If they didn't exhibit any symptoms of the virus, they were free to go back home. The International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, says the ability of air transport to and from China is reduced by 80%. Adding global air transport losses are estimated at $4 to $5 billion. And inside China, cases of the virus in the Chinese Army or the People's Liberation Army are also increasing. According to the PLA Daily, photos show soldiers wearing face masks and getting their body temperature measured. And the captain of the Changzhou warship in the Navy, one of the best in China, is now under quarantine. So, who does this virus target? Some people have been wondering at the lack of cases among children. So far, the youngest reported case is a 30-hour-old baby whose mother was infected with the coronavirus while pregnant. But reports say the baby has since made a full recovery. Reports suggest fewer children get infected, which is consistent with other coronavirus outbreaks in recent history, including SARS and MERS. As of now, there is no official cure, so many of the recovery chances are up to a person's own immune system. According to Dr. Natalie McDermott, a clinical lecturer at King's College, children under 5 years old have better immune systems and a better chance of resisting the virus. Yesterday, the head of Wuchang Hospital in Wuhan, the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak, died. And today, reports are coming in that the vice head of the Central Hospital in Wuhan and head of number 8 hospital in Wuhan is infected and in critical condition. Dr. Li Wenliang, the whistleblower, was working in the Central Hospital as well. And a doctor explains the process of how a coronavirus patient dies. He said it's like drowning from the inside, but it's not from water. Instead, the coronavirus causes a sticky jelly-like discharge, which makes it hard for the patient to breathe. He said the patient is aware until the very end and will struggle for air, even crying out for help, saying, "Doctor, please save me." So far, the only help doctors can give is administering pure oxygen to the patient. After that, it's up to the person's own immune system to fight it. So his advice, maintain health by eating well to keep the body strong. And the first 2 autopsies of coronavirus patients show that there was a large amount of mucus in the lungs, making it hard for the patient to breathe. That's different from SARS. So how contagious is the coronavirus? A new study by researchers at the University of Texas at Austin has found that the coronavirus is 10 to 20 times more contagious than SARS. The report adds this high affinity may help explain the ease of human-to-human transmission, but more studies are needed. And Chinese citizens who want to know more about the coronavirus outbreak are finding it hard, as the communist regime is spreading propaganda and has media only report positively, with heartwarming reports to distract from the severity of the outbreak. One such story is about 15 medical staff, 14 female and 1 male, who were sent to Wuhan to help out. All the females had their heads shaved, while the man did not. It was said that long hair could increase the risk of getting infected. State-run media praised them like heroes, pointing out their sacrifice to help. One lady cried before having her head shaved. Some cried during it. Afterwards, the barber showed one her hair, and she looked away, fighting back tears. Here's a picture of all the girls before, and after there was a video. These were all used by state media to show how much they sacrificed. But netizens question why the man didn't also have to have his head shaved. Cutting the hair short seemed to be enough, so why shave it all off? Some question if this kind of propaganda is necessary. One commented, saying the communist regime pushes these nurses to the altar, and if they die heroes. But if they survive, they become tools of the Communist Party for propaganda purposes. Others question if they were forced to have their heads shaved or if it was of their own initiative. As the coronavirus spreads, an interesting document has surfaced from the Chinese Communist Party's operations in Hubei, where the virus first broke out. It shows the regime's detailed propaganda measures surrounding the virus. NTD's Juliet Song has the story.
As the deadly coronavirus continues to spread in China, an internal document has surfaced, showing how officials at the outbreak's epicenter tightened censorship. The document is drafted by Hubei province's propaganda arm, where the coronavirus outbreak first started. A person familiar with the matter provided the document to the Epoch Times Chinese edition. It says that local officials are ramping up wartime propaganda efforts after a February 10th video conference with the Chinese regime's leader, Xi Jinping. The document says local officials assembled a special team headed by Hubei province's propaganda chief. Members are required to be on duty 24 hours a day. The document says following the outbreak, about 60 reporters from 33 non-Chinese media companies arrived in Wuhan. 47 of them left after being worked on by the propaganda arm. By February 15th, only 5 non-state media companies remain in Wuhan, including the Wall Street Journal and Hong Kong broadcaster TVB. TVB said earlier that reporters, including one of their own, were detained or threatened by the police while covering the outbreak. They were asked to delete the footage they filmed. With over 80 cities under lockdown nationwide, the regime shifted focus to the internet. They employed 1,600 people to monitor online discussions, 24 hours nonstop. So far, they detected over 600,000 pieces of information deemed harmful and sensitive. Over 50,000 of them have been deleted by China's Cyberspace Administration. Last December, a Chinese doctor, Li Wenliang, warned others about the coronavirus. He was later reprimanded by the police for spreading rumors. Li died in less than a month after contracting the disease he warned about. The propaganda arm also organized social media influencers to write 400 web commentaries. They hired people to leave about 400,000 comments under the web commentaries. Reporting by Juliet Song, NTD News.
As new cases continue to pop up, 2 U.S. experts can begin assessing the coronavirus outbreak in China, but it is unclear whether they will be shown the full picture. Meanwhile, Napa County, California, confirmed its first case, with a second case suspected.
Napa County, California confirmed its first case of the coronavirus on Tuesday. A news release said a second person in the county is under investigation. Neither are Napa County residents. Both are evacuees from the Diamond Princess cruise ship docked off in Japan. After arriving at the Travis Air Force Base in Solano County, 7 among them were identified as needing testing or hospitalization. 5 were sent to local hospitals. The other 2 were sent to receive treatment in Napa County due to a shortage of isolation beds. According to the release, 1 patient had tested positive for the virus while in Japan, but wasn't showing any symptoms. The other had some symptoms, but testing in Japan came back negative. New testing is taking place. Both patients are under federal quarantine. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said more transparency is needed from the regime.
We hope that every country that has information, this includes China, will be completely open and transparent.
He said it took too long to get U.S. medical experts into China. A team from the World Health Organization, including 2 Americans, were set to visit China from Monday, but missing from the itinerary is Hubei, the central Chinese province affected by the virus. A specialist in global health security, Adam Kamrat Scott, told the media this suggests an attempt to cover up the true scale of the epidemic.
A Japanese infectious disease specialist has criticized his government's handling of a quarantine on a coronavirus-stricken cruise ship, saying it was run by bureaucrats who stoked the crisis by failing to follow basic protocols.
Hundreds of passengers held on board a cruise ship under quarantine for more than 2 weeks were allowed off near Tokyo on Wednesday. More will be allowed to disembark over the next 2 days. Even as they trundled off the Diamond Princess ship with their suitcases, Japanese authorities announced another 79 new cases of the coronavirus on board. That brought the total above 620, well over half the known cases outside mainland China. The ordeal for those on board began 16 days ago, when a man who got off in Hong Kong before it travelled to Japan was diagnosed with the virus. The ship originally carried some 3,700 passengers and crew, and now a Japanese infectious disease specialist at Kobe University Hospital has condemned his government's handling of the quarantine on the ship. Kentaro Iwata volunteered to help on board the cruise liner.
It turned out that the cruise ship was completely inadequate in terms of the infection control. There was no distinction between the green zone, which is free of infection, and the red zone, which is potentially contaminated by virus. There was no single professional infection control person inside the ship, and there was nobody in charge of infection prevention as a professional. The bureaucrats were in charge of everything.
Japan's health minister has defended his country's efforts, saying appropriate steps to prevent serious cases had been taken. Around half of the passengers and crew are Japanese. Other countries have said they will fly their nationals home and quarantine them on arrival. Canada is chartering a plane on Thursday or Friday for the more than 200 Canadians who are on board. The United States has already flown more than 300 home to air bases in California and Texas. Meanwhile, the death toll from this global health crisis continues to rise. Beyond mainland China, 6 people have died from the disease. Governments around the world doing everything they can to prevent it from spreading into a global epidemic.
In response to the global threat posed by the coronavirus, several hundred international research teams have begun their search for a vaccine, including one in Paris. Our France correspondent David Vives has the details.
When people first started worrying about the coronavirus, French media and officials looked to biological research center Institut Pasteur. Now 120 of its scientists are currently working on a vaccine.
The laboratory was among the first in the world to isolate the virus's new strain. As you can imagine, the teams are very busy. They are on the front line to quell the virus, and developing a vaccine is a race against the clock.
Frédéric Tanguy is heading the Vaccination Innovation Lab. His team is currently working on an anti-gene which would provide immunity against the virus.
These are so-called coronaviruses with the crown around, and this crown is composed of a protein which name is the spike protein, because it's a spike. So this is the main antigen to protect. If you make antibodies to this one, the virus will be more difficult to infect your cells.
Finding a vaccine is a difficult task with many uncertainties.
Very difficult, because it's new. So we have to adapt to new information, and we don't have the patients here because they are in China.
Tanguy is using the virus sequence published by Chinese authorities. But the virus may also mutate. This would change things for Tanguy's team.
A single mutation, very small changes may impact the efficacy of the vaccine. We don't know.
Given the virus's potential impact, the vaccine's development is fast-tracked, but it still requires a lengthy process. After the antigenes are synthesized, their efficiency will first be tested on mice and later on humans.
It will take 1 year. Between 8 months, 9 months, to 1 year maximum. Shorter is crazy. No one can do shorter.
Some studies have called the virus less dangerous than the common flu, which killed 61,000 from 2017 to 2018.
The virus is definitely much more dangerous than flu, because the potential to kill is 2.5% among infected people. And the same potential for flu is 0.05. Okay? So it's 50 times superior. If you got infected by that virus, you have 40 more risk to die than if you are infected with.
Some studies show that a person may have the virus for up to 24 days before showing symptoms.
Yes, this is something very frightening, that the incubation period may last for more than a month, and then you die after a month or something like that, which is rare.
But there is one positive point. Tanji says creating a vaccine today is much quicker than it was 20 years ago, during China's SARS epidemic. This is thanks to improved international cooperation. Reporting by David Vives, NTD News.
Some Chinese media entities operating in the U.S. are now classified as foreign missions. The State Department wants to make clear that these media outlets primarily trade in propaganda.
The U.S. State Department leveled a new designation on China's state-run media operating in the United States. The State Department now categorizes Xinhua News Agency, China Global Television Network, CCTV, China Radio International, China Daily Distribution Corporation, and Haitian Development USA as foreign missions. Officials say they made the decision because the media outlets are directly controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. They're used as propaganda tools and in no way conduct independent journalism. The department says the decision was prompted by even more aggressive efforts by the communist leadership to use media entities for political objectives abroad. U.S. officials made clear that the move won't restrict journalistic activity. It just makes clear what interests these media are serving. The new designation means two things for their media operations. It means that they will have to inform the U.S. government of their staff, and they will have to tell the government about any real estate holdings and get approval for future real estate transactions. The state officials also emphasized that foreign journalists are treated much worse in China's media censorship environment.
And in China, 3 reporters from the Wall Street Journal were expelled from China. This came hours after 5 Chinese media outlets were labeled foreign missions by the U.S.
China is the real sick man of Asia. The Chinese regime called this headline from the Wall Street Journal racially discriminatory and the article slanderous. So they revoked the press credentials of 3 unrelated journalists in China. They now have 5 days to leave the country. The news came hours after the U.S. designated Chinese state-run media and propaganda arms like China Daily as foreign agents. Published about 2 weeks ago, this scathing opinion article went over the coronavirus's potential economic impact on China, as well as how the regime has mishandled the outbreak. The journal's publisher said he was deeply disappointed by Beijing's decision. However, he did express regret, saying it upset the Chinese. But he said it wasn't their intention before requesting that China reinstate the visas of the 3 journalists. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo condemned China's decision and said that the U.S. hopes that the Chinese people will one day have the same freedom of speech that Americans have.
Here at China in Focus, we bring you first-hand information from inside China. And we just passed 10,000 subscribers. Thank you all for being here. And if you're new, don't forget to subscribe for the latest updates.